Hello, Bond fans! So yeah, suffice it to say, I haven't made a proper video in quite some time. I have been working away recently on getting some scripts done for those videos, so I just finished writing up my Spectre movie review, like a full-on, proper scene-by-scene dissection, which I'm very much looking forward to finalising. Also got GoldenEye Reloaded, script for that done, so it just takes time to edit these things and all that, and it's been quite a busy summer for me so far. But I've been keeping up with my other sort of commitment, which is the Diminishing Returns podcast. And on that show, we look at a lot of different kinds of movies, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware of, because I've made videos about this podcast before. But one of the main sort of features is that, by my insistence, we're going through every single James Bond film and doing a show about each of them. It's really great for me as a Bond fan to talk about these films with my good friends Sol and Alan, who aren't necessarily big Bond fans, and I find it really interesting to sort of get their opinions and insights, and I think we have some really good discussions. Discussions that I don't know if they necessarily come across when it's, you know, just diehard fans talking about the films. In honour of the release of our You Only Live Twice review, we thought we'd put together a little top 5 best Diminishing Returns Bond-related moments, as judged by us. And so here they are. I wonder if you agree or disagree, or let me know if you've got another sort of favourite Bond moment from the show. A personal favourite from mine that I was outvoted on this list was a game that we played in the From Russia With Love episode, where Sol and Alan had to guess if the two names that I said to them were either a Bond girl or a drag queen. That was a very fun game. But yep, here we go. The top 5 best Diminishing Returns Bond-related moments.
Who would be a better James Bond, Colin Firth or Hugh Grant?
Oh, don't do that to me. I mean,
obviously,
it depends what you're going.
15 years ago.
At their appropriate ages.
It would have been 95, wouldn't it? It would have been Pierce Brosnan era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Colin Firth could have done a better serious take on the character, but Hugh Grant was probably more the Roger Moore, the Pierce Brosnan.
I think they'd both be really good, though.
In different ways,
yeah.
Has Colin Firth ever been a spy? Oh no, that was Gary
Didn't
Oldman.
He do Kingsman?
Oh, he did do Kingsman. Yes. Oh, he was
I
brilliant
haven't seen
in that.
it, but isn't he like an old James Bond figure in that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Colin Firth is like the better actor of the two, and that's not to say I don't like Hugh Grant, but I mean Colin Firth is just like a phenomenal talent when it comes to acting. He's one of my favourite actors in the world. But I don't know, Hugh Grant I feel might embody more of the spirit of Bond in a lot of ways. I don't know, sort of a bit of a posh knobhead.
Oh, he'd have been great in Tomorrow Never Dies when Bond takes down the Rupert Murdoch type character. That could have been one for him. Wish fulfillment role.
Yeah. We start at the beginning. So that bit where Bond is just milling around at the start, and he's sort of like, what's going on? And then there's this guy pursuing him. The guy jumps out and throttles him, and then and you're like, oh my god, James Bond's been killed. And then they pull off the mask, and it's all a trick. What is that? Like, is that going to be a training exercise where they just kill actual like people and put masks on them for no reason?
It was entirely necessary to actually kill that guy.
I think that outside of the logic of the story, there was a producer who Harry Saltzman, who was one of the two guys who was producing Bond in the early days, and he had this fascination with tricking the audience into thinking that Bond was killed earlier, like in the first like pre-credit sequence.
Right.
So that's why in a few of the Sean Connery ones, some of them are quite like in You Only Live Twice. Obviously, he gets fake killed at the start. And the start of Thunderball, the film opens like on a coffin with the initials JB on them. I think it's a really stupid tactic.
Like, who's watching that and going, oh, they've killed off the main character. This is an interesting twist. I wonder where this is
going.
But
then they don't even let it breathe either. It's like immediately shown to be a big trick anyway. So
I must admit, the first thing I thought when Connery was on screen, I was like, why is Sean Connery wearing so much makeup? Like, why has he made his eyes look like that? And then it was like, oh, it's a mask.
Because Batman v Superman has sort of legitimized A-level movies, like just putting V in the title and having everything. Because it used to be like Alien v Predator or whatever. So this is JB v JB, Jason Bourne versus James Bond.
Of course.
Because obviously they've influenced each other as series, and I think, you could...
I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a comic book out there that's been made that already...
Probably.
There's a line of James Bond comics, aren't there? And you get all sorts of like Batman versus Alien versus Terminator comics. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, despite this would never happen, because obviously all the rights are all over the place, but let's just say in an imaginary world, we would start the film in London.
Ding 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 ding.
We have the... I never even thought about that.
I was going to say, is this a Bond film? Is this a Bourne film? Is it kind of equal parts?
I think that this is a Bond film with
Jason Bourne guest star, right?
So we start in London, and the British Prime Minister is going to give a big address in front of all the world leaders at a very important conference in London. We have an introductory sequence of a bunch of his security detail, and we hop from like one to another, all talking to each other on the wireless comms, like, "Oh, Roger," and all this. And we hear a woman's voice on the comms, and it's Judi Dench, because this is not set.
I can't believe I didn't realise that they have the same initials. I can't believe that's just head.
And Judy's all like, "Oh, where the bloody hell is he?" And she's all, Bond, report." And then we cut to an empty conference room, and there's a comms on the desk, and then a hand comes up and grabs the comms, and Bond gets up and his shirt's all ruffled, and and then he says, "Oh, smooth sailing so far, ma'am, but it could get messy." And then there's a lady under the desk, and he's obviously bunked off. He's but duty calls. So and through this, this is to establish that this is not Daniel Craig's Bond. This is...
We're going back.
Well,
Are you casting someone new?
You'd probably have to cast someone new in this, but in my mind it would be to contrast with Jason Bourne, who is a very humorless, dour character. You would need to have a Roger Moore or a Pierce Brosnan, someone who's a bit lighter. That's a good idea, yeah.
Have you got any ideas, casting-wise? Anyone out there you'd go for?
I didn't think of it, actually. Do you have any suggestions?
Tom Hiddleston. Because he's not a very actiony guy, is he?
No, he could do the charm, the smarm. So we learn that Bond is in charge of the Prime Minister's security for this very important conference happening, and I'm not quite figured out what, but it's some kind of super important deal or treaty with the USA. And Bond thinks that this job is beneath him, and he's making quips and whatnot. And then suddenly there's sniper fire, and the PM is shot dead just as he's about to sign the treaty with the USA, and Bond follows the sniper, and there's a shaky cameraed, choppily edited car chase with Bond in his gadget-laden Aston Martin and the assailant in a sort of crappy Eastern European-made car. But they're evenly matched. Anyway, the car chase ends with Bond incapacitated, and he sees the face of the sniper, and it's Jason Bourne. And Bond is pretty beat up, and he drops unconscious. Then we have a pre-credit sequence. This is a Bond film. And then we open a few years later, and we see that Jason Bourne is going about his business, and he's now living with Julia Stiles' character from... We didn't really talk about very much, but she is a constant figure throughout the series.
Yeah. Never got why that character was in it.
Yeah.
It's just sort of exposition, or it's sort of an escape route out of a couple of things, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But very underused, really.
Yeah, to say it's Julia Stiles, and I think she's a fine actress.
Do you know what? I kind of liked it that it was just the same character that they just sort of like, oh yeah, he's got this mate who keeps helping him out. Kind of. Someone on the inside. It worked, but it did seem a bit weird that it was Julia Stiles. Yeah. Even at the time, she was pretty well established.
Yeah, mostly in like 10 Things I Hate About You and those kind of teen rom-coms that she was good in. So he's living with her now. They're living an inauspicious life in a houseboat somewhere. It's all very low-key. We just see a little bit of their daily business just to catch up with where they are. And then we move to London. And Bond is a bit more serious now than he was before the incident, because that's like, he's no longer MI6's top man, because as far as, British Secret Service, one of the worst things you can do is have a Prime Minister die on you. So he's only got vague memories of this assailant because he's bumped his head, so a little bit of amnesia just to sort of give him a little bit of that Bourne thing. And he's only really getting low key assignments now, and he really wants to be in the big leagues again. But Emma's refusing to give him the benefit of the doubt. When Moneypenny turns up at Bond's house with a sneaky covert mission for him to do in order to restore some of that former glory, which is to terminate a rogue American agent who the US have outsourced the killing of because no one in that damn country, no matter what training, no matter what steroids they've had, they just can't kill him. So they're like, well, fine, someone else can do it, because they still want him dead, for even though they should know better by now. So, maybe we just leave him alone and we won't, interfere with us. But Bond accepts, and on seeing the picture of Jason Bourne, it all comes flooding back. Oh, he's the one, so the stakes are personal now. So Bond heads over to whatever Eastern European country or African country or whatever that Bourne is living in, and this bit isn't worked out, but we have some espionage and action and car chases around this point. This is where we get all the versus stuff out. So we have the pair of them fighting.
Do they meet and Bond's like, "Who on earth are you?" And he goes, "The name's Bourne, Jason Bourne."
You just kind of spoiled what I was going to say next. But yes, yeah. So that happens, and there's a confrontational scene in which Bourne claims to have no memory of the incident with the British Prime Minister, but he's got no memory of most things that happened. So he thinks, oh shit, did I actually do that? Because that's a pretty bad thing if I did that. Stuff happens here, and Bourne might actually convince Bond that he doesn't know anything. So Bond decides to bring Bourne back to the UK alive. Meanwhile, news of this has been trickling down the Secret Service bodies in the US and the UK. Moneypenny has gone missing, and M is having talks with Joan Allen from the Bourne series, and she's now the head of the CIA, so she's sort of Judy's opposite number. And it's all very heated, because if it's true that Bourne was the one to kill a British Prime Minister, then fuck, it could be all-out war between the UK and the US, and when, has that ever happened recently? It's especially sensitive right now as the US President is on British soil to mark the anniversary of the Prime Minister's assassination and open up a new memorial. So Bourne and Bond return to the UK with Julia Stiles, and Bond is told to hand over Bourne to MI5, which he's apprehensive about, but word of this has come from the Prime Minister, so he has no choice, but he's somewhat conflicted. Anyway, Bourne is to be interrogated by the head of MI5, who enters the interrogation room. Then, in a plot twist worthy of 24, the head rips off his face, and it's Jack Bauer underneath. So we have the third spy JB in the story. And Jack explains that there's a massive terrorist conspiracy afoot because it's 24, so there's obviously,
Does it shift into real time from this point onwards?
Yeah. It does. And there's a massive terrorist conspiracy afoot involving the US president. And the pair must expose him as a DNA-altered Osama bin Laden, because he went to the same clinic as the bad guy in Die Another Day went to. If you remember that one, where a Korean man has DNA replacement surgery to become a white man, to become Toby Stephens, Maggie Smith's son. So he's had that, so, tie into the Bond films. And the conspiracy itself revolves around a Spectre-style plot to inaugurate a war between Britain and the United States. So we've effectively got a villainous organisation here that's sort of half Al-Qaeda, half Spectre. And the whole thing is the plot for this particular day is to assassinate the Queen of England herself at the memorial service where she's... Now, things get a bit vague here because I've not quite figured all this out, but all three super spies must now work together to expose the terrorists, whilst fighting against agents of their own affiliation. So they're all against like CIA and MI6. And the trio end up finding a lone gunman who is the one who was going to take out the Queen. And they discover that it's Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise from the Mission Impossible series. And after a cool fight sequence, they manage to convince him of the truth, but are surprised that he was duped so easily. And Hunt explains that the problem is that now he's, getting older, and these self-destructing messages, you can't replay them once they've done themselves. So he was like, oh, well, I don't remember everything of it, and I just go for the gist of it. And everyone agrees that they're all getting really old now, because everyone's really old, apart from... And then Bond just stays quiet, because he's young but always old. Anyway, the day is saved here in, wonderful action sequences. Moneypenny is rescued, Julia Stiles is rescued, and we can throw Jack Bauer's daughter in for the hell of it, because she was always getting captured in 24. And the film ends with Joan Allen, and the Vice President congratulating the gang on a job well done. And then they all rip off their faces, and it's Johnny English so, underneath all of them.
J.E.
And that's it.
It rhymes.
I'll admit that when I was writing this, towards the end, I think I did just sort of get a bit silly. But...
I mean, there's...
It probably
it got very complicated. I think I got lost halfway through.
It's not very well thought out.
There's a vague precedent for 24 crossovers. Are you familiar with the It never actually happened, but the Die Hard 24 crossover that was on the table for a short period. Die Hard 24/7.
Oh.
My understanding is Bruce Willis is a big fan of 24 and was like, yeah, those guys should team up because Bruce Willis has lost his fucking mind when it comes to Die Hard. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore. And I'm pretty sure it was Kiefer Sutherland who basically said, no, let's...
that surprises me.
Let's work on building the 24 franchise as its own thing. I think he wanted to make some 24 movies. Did they ever make a 24 movie?
No, never. It's been talked about for years. And then they eventually came back with like a limited series, which was 12 episodes each an hour long. So the real-time thing sort of went out the door.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was real-time until 10 minutes before the end, and then they suddenly skipped forward 12 hours to justify it all happening in one day. And now they're doing a rebooted series, but he's not even in it anymore, and he doesn't want to be in it. And it's sort of...
If you're going to do it as a film, you do it in real time, like some very simple plot.
Yeah.
It takes place over 98 minutes.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, actually, which is a bit of a tangent?
Yes.
But you'll know. What is the history in James Bond of representations of the Prime Minister? Because isn't there one where it's basically not in name but Thatcher?
Yeah.
And you never see her face?
Oh no, we see her face. They got some woman who was an impersonator of her on TV at the time, and they got someone to play her husband as well. It's really awkward. It's the end of For Your Eyes Only, and it's like at the end of the film when they have Bond is having sex and then they bring in some dignitary. It's like, oh, what are you doing? And then I guess that they thought, oh well, if we're going to take this joke to its natural conclusion, he needs to be talking to the Prime Minister. So they put him through to the Prime Minister, and she's all like, oh hello, and then. He was supposed to be communicating with her through a watch, and then he puts the watch on like a parrot's stand, and the joke is that Margaret Thatcher's having a conversation with a parrot.
That's hilarious.
But apart from that's the only time we've ever in some of the Roger Moore ones they refer to the Prime Minister as like oh she'll have our guts for garters. So it's very much the real world Prime Minister, I guess.
So if in this version of your film would you get David Cameron and then have him killed and then you'd have to have everyone like upset by that though, which would be difficult to pull off.
I suppose I was.
You'd have to have a fictional Prime Minister that people like.
No, you could get away with like you just have a montage of like Brixton street parties and up with like twats in suits, getting all upset. You can pull it off with him.
But I think that there is something in there which I probably didn't highlight about. Because Bond is all about Queen and country, like the establishment is what we're protecting and all this kind of stuff. Whereas Bourne is very much the sort of opposite of that. It's a very more anarchist like.
Do you know when they had the Olympics in London? They had that thing with Bond and the Queen.
Yes.
Is that the most depressing thing you've ever seen? It's just like Daniel Craig who forced into this. The Queen obviously didn't give a fuck about anything. She was sat at the Olympic opening ceremony with her face like a slapped arse. Didn't care. And like she has to pretend. It's like when they do something for comic relief and they get like the
Tony Blair.
Am I bothered? Yeah, it's like for God's
that's
sake.
why I loved it because it's pretty much like. I mean, you can't really go further than that, can you?
You've got like a 6'2", like 250-pound stuntman in a dress, parachuting out of a helicopter.
Has James Bond
to be the Queen?
Has James Bond ever taken part in comic relief? I know Doctor Who has.
Yes. There's been a few instances. I think when Daniel Craig first became Bond in like 2006, 2007, they did have a little sketch. I can't remember exactly what it was, but one of the more recent ones was they had like David Walliams did a sketch where he like dubbed over.
He's in love with being Bond,
and it was like they had like an interview with Roger Moore, and then they dubbed Sarah Millican over his voice, and the joke was, oh, they don't sound anything like they do on. Because that was the joke. Sorry, that Daniel Craig.
That sounds like top tier comic relief. Yeah.
I've made a little Bond quiz. More for Calvin, to be honest with you, Saul, because I've had to go pretty deep with this. Knowing Calvin's, in-depth knowledge and self-proclaimed expertise on the matter, I've tried to come up with some questions that are a bit deeper.
Okay.
And it's more about like the production side of things, like the surrounding Bond, rather than the films themselves.
Okay. Goldfinger, especially, or the whole series?
No, not particularly. No, just sort of general Bond questions that have sort of. As I was doing research, things that came up. Okay, so...
Well, play along at home and see if you can beat James Bond superfan.
That was it, yeah. Well, that's
what Calvin Dyson.
Exactly, yeah. Because I know we're gonna got a lot of Bond fans listening, so it'd be interesting to see if they can get them. So don't answer too quickly, Calvin. Give them a chance to think about it. Okay, so Sam Mendes, current Bond director.
Mm-hmm.
He is, of course, English.
Yes.
But before him, who was the last Bond director who was born in England?
Who was born in England?
Yeah, he's English. I'm going to work backwards.
That must be John Glenn?
John Glenn?
Yes.
What did he do?
He did For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, A View to a Kill, The Living Daylights, License to Kill.
It's Michael Apted.
It is, Saul is correct. His research skills is quicker than your mind. There you go. It is Michael Apted.
So 1-0, I'm beating Calvin.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Because then you got, what is it, Lee Tamahori, he's from New Zealand as well.
Yeah, and Mark Forster is some kind of
German.
European.
Yeah, he's from West Germany. Yeah, he's born. Okay, so 1-0 to Saul.
No. This wasn't even supposed to be a competition, but
It is that.
Now, there's no way Saul will get this unless he can, again, beat you with his Googling skills.
Okay, cool.
Which cinematographer has made the most Bond films?
Ooh.
It's either Alan Hume or Ted Moore.
Would you like to have a crack at which one to pick?
Ted Moore did a lot of the early ones, didn't he? So I'm going to go for him, Ted Moore.
Ted Moore is the correct answer.
Yes. Come
yeah,
on.
he did.
Just beat me.
I couldn't tell you which ones he did.
He did
but...
7, basically 7 out of the first 9, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, The Man with the Golden Gun. Nice easy one, this. Which British comedian wrote the Young Bond novels?
Oh, it's Charlie Hickson.
Charlie Hickson is correct. Saul takes the lead again.
I actually knew that one,
This is a biased quiz.
Why?
I didn't know Charlie Hickson was a comedian.
Yeah.
What did you think? It was a bit harsh.
An author.
No,
Well, he's in the
Fast show
Fast Show and
he's
everything Paul Whitehouse has done.
Okay.
In 1967, Eon Productions made a television special to promote You Only Live Twice.
Oh, yes.
It featured Miss Moneypenny and Q.
Yes.
What was the name of that special?
Welcome to Japan, Mr. Bond.
Is the correct answer.
Yes.
Saul, this one is a guess a number question, so you might get it. Okay.
28.
No, come on now. I'll have to accept your first answer. It's whoever's closest to. Goldfinger won the Bond franchise its first Oscar, but how many has it won in total?
The franchise.
6.
The franchise. Calvin's gone for 6. Sol, would you like to go for another answer? We'll go closest winner.
I'll go for 7.
The correct answer is 5.
Shit.
Damn it, so close. Oh no, wait, I
It's
win.
got. Yes, you were closest. Sound effects for Goldfinger, visual effects for Thunderball, sound editing and original song for Skyfall, and then original song for Spectre.
Yes.
There was a big gap of 40 years between them. Okay, Ian Fleming said that his envision of Bond should look like a particular American musician, and he specifically named him in 2 of the novels.
Hoagie Carmichael.
It's Hoagie Carmichael.
Yes.
Oh, your reputation is still just about intact.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah, you did all right there.
That was all right. God.
I just want to say one line to you, Calvin, and see what you've got to say about this.
Okay.
I think I had a hat when I came in.
Oh, I hate that.
What's that about? Moment. Because he did have a hat when he came in, definitely.
Yes.
So what's all that about?
That's my favourite part in the whole film.
Okay.
I quite like the moment because he's like in this tense moment between M and Moneypenny. He's like, "Ugh, I think I had a hat when I came in." I'm going to start using that to get out of awkward situations.
So yeah, there is this awkward moment where Bond is flirting with Moneypenny, and she slags off M, who comes into the room, and she calls him an old man, and he comes in saying, "I'll prefer it if you don't refer to me as the old man." And Bond tries to defuse the situation by saying, "I think I had a hat when I came in." And then he goes over to the hat rack, and there isn't a hat on it. And that's it. Previously, we saw him. He did come in with a hat. He does his, sort of, puts the thing on the coat rack as he often does in these films. Someone actually, I've made a complaint about this in several reviews before of this film, but someone actually pointed out to me that this is supposed to be a different day because everyone is wearing different clothes.
All right.
But
so that was just a really long meeting then.
Well, so it's like it's like stealthily edited together so that you're actually watching like a montage of Bond visiting these people over like months.
This is the thing, like, I mean, because if that is true and it is supposed to be a different day because people are wearing different clothes, then that makes even less sense because after they have this major briefing where there are 2 nuclear warheads like loose somewhere in the world, and everyone just goes home for a day and then comes back and then continues. It's like, no, you do all of that in one day. You get all that briefing out and send your agents off.
I mean, it's obviously meant to be the same instance. Like,
it's. I mean, Bond is wearing a different jacket, but that still does explain like why he wouldn't have a hat if he presumably wears it every time he goes outside. Anyway, Alan, do you?